Today's story comes to us from r/RPG Horror Stories. This is a story from about 15 years ago. I was GMing a game of Castles and Crusades. One player had a true neutral druid. The story involved the players investigating who was behind a sudden rash of goblin raids against a previously peaceful farming village, and if possible, put a stop to future raids. After a fight with a goblin raiding party, one goblin was still alive and had surrendered. The players questioned the goblin about who was coordinating the raids, but it soon became clear that he was just a lowly grunt with no real knowledge of the higher-ups. However, this is when the druid decided that he didn't believe the goblin. With the goblin tied up, he announced that he was getting his knife. "I'm going to make him talk," he said with a certain glee. He then threatened the goblin if he didn't reveal the commanding mastermind. I announced that the goblin was scared, but repeated in a cowering voice that he was ignorant of such things. "Okay, he had his chance," the player said, and started to go into a graphic description. Today's story comes to us from r/RPG Horror Stories. This is a story from about 15 years ago. I was GMing a game of Castles and Crusades. One player had a true neutral druid. The story involved the players investigating who was behind a sudden rash of goblin raids against a previously peaceful farming village, and if possible, put a stop to future raids. After a fight with a goblin raiding party, one goblin was still alive and had surrendered. The players questioned the goblin about who was coordinating the raids, but it soon became clear that he was just a lowly grunt with no real knowledge of the higher-ups. However, this is when the druid decided that he didn't believe the goblin. With the goblin tied up, he announced that he was getting his knife. "I'm going to make him talk," he said with a certain glee. He then threatened the goblin if he didn't reveal the commanding mastermind. I announced that the goblin was scared, but repeated in a cowering voice that he was ignorant of such things. "Okay, he had his chance," the player said, and started to go into a graphic description of I told him the goblin was screaming, but didn't reveal anything useful amidst his screams. The player, still convinced that he was hiding something, started to graphically At this point, it was clear that the other players were getting a little uncomfortable about the player's apparent sadistic glee in the graphic descriptions of torture. At that point, I stepped in and said, "Add evil to your alignment. By the way, an alignment change like that is going to result in you losing your druidic powers." That's when the player lost it. He said that since goblins were evil, according to the monster manual, it was okay to torture them for the greater good. Furthermore, he argued, true neutral simply meant that he could do anything, good or evil, to get the job done. Evil alignments, according to him, meant that evil acts were committed only for sheer pleasure. I stood firm and insisted that he had committed an evil act and the alignment change was justified. I then told him if we were to play any more games together, he would have to tone down the graphic torture scenes because it was creeping me out a little. That got him even angrier, and he accused me of implying that he didn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, i.e. everything in the game was just fantasy, so any content should be okay. That ended up being the last game I GM'd for the group. I ended up leaving the group not too long after for not altogether unrelated reasons.
Trollord Games. Join the fray.
And here we are.
Are we live?
We're live.
Excellent. Well, we're here for a mid-afternoon stream to make a major announcement, which we've already kind of made. But Davis and Chuck and Luke are all here to chat about the good news.
Yeah, the return of my dad's works. That's super awesome. I mean, this is something that we have worked towards for many years. It certainly was a long and windy road, but we're here, and man, I couldn't be happier. So took a lot of perseverance and a lot of faith and support from folks, but here we are. And I don't know, Steve, you want to talk about what's in the hopper?
Yeah, so it broke, I guess, I think it was about a week ago. We got the orders from the court, so we got with Luke and started figuring out where we are on stuff. And the funniest thing about it, as soon as I let Peter Bradley know, that's our art director, and he was working on all of this stuff, a lot of times with Gary, separate from me or Davis or anyone else in the company, just kind of doing his own thing with Gary. Well, Peter had a mountain of knowledge of he remembered where we were on all of these projects. So it's really cool to see this stuff kind of come out, and we're looking at obviously the Hermit, which we've already got in deep into the hopper. The Hall of Many Pains, which that's probably one of my favorite things that Gary did, because it's crazy plane travel, which is just.
It was one of his favorite things. He talked about it, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. This is neat. Yeah. We're working on this. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it is something else. So we're gonna be able to revisit that, which is super, super exciting. And then the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series.
Hall of Many Pains is, remember, those little tops to the acorns are important.
There is your hint, your helpful hint for surviving the Hall of Many Pains. Then there's the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series, which I had remembered we had published 7, but until I got into the files, I didn't realize there were 3 more, 2 of which were written by Gary, that were in editing or layout or someplace in that. And then, of course, is the absolutely the giant monster in the room, which is Castle Zagig. And this has unlocked all of it. So we're looking at not only Yigsburg, but the expansion on the Yigsburg neighborhoods, the Eastmark. We're looking at the Eastmark material, the mouths of madness, which are the caves that go around the kind of cliff face where Castle Zagig sits, then the castle itself, and then underneath the castle, the 17 levels of that. So just a monstrous amount of material that we're able to bring out. And I cannot, like Luke, I can't express how exciting this is and how happy I'm. Oh, yeah, and I forgot Kings of England, Kings of France.
You can't forget that.
I cannot forget that one. That was the last long discussion that Gary and I had, and it was over the color of that map.
I think the kind of horrible purplish magenta color is great. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Hey, take up where he left off. Luke, there you go.
Yeah.
Steve, 1960s pastel.
Yeah.
I've got a question. We've got a question from some folks over on YouTube that's not coming through, so I'm going to repeat them to you guys. Who else is involved? Is Jeff Talon involved? How about Rob Kuntz? Who exactly is involved of the old guard?
You want me to tackle that, Luke? Or
yeah, well, I'm involved, so I'm going to be contributing to this work and helping guide the direction. It's one of the things my father asked me many years ago. He asked Steve and I and a few other folks that were there. He said, "Hey, this is. I don't have long for this world. I know that. I could go at any time. I've tried to lay out and outline the things that I want done, and I've given my notes and have trusted people to work them, and I will review them while I'm here. But in the event, I am not here, which is likely, please carry this forward for Castle Zagig, right, and the surroundings, as well as King of England, King of France, which was very important to him. So I'll be involved in. Steve, I don't know who you want to talk about specifically outside of that's public or not public, so I'll let you talk.
So obviously Luke's going to be involved in the writing. We have the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series, they're all written. So we're just going to leave those as is. I have notes on books that he wanted to do later down the line. If we want to expand those, we can all sit down and kind of discuss that. But the Hall of Many Pains, of course, is written, and the Hermit's written. It's Castle Zagig that's partially written, and it needs, a whole lot of writing to it, obviously. So we've brought on Mike Stewart, who is a longtime Dragon's Foot community, worked with Gary on a number of projects back in the day. He's worked with us. He wrote Victorious. He wrote Shadows of the Halfling Hall, Verdant Rage. So, and Mike's got a fantastic feel of AD&D and a good feel of CNC. So he kind of knows the area that we're wandering into. I've talked to Jim Ward. Jim Ward's on board as a consultant. He's more than happy to do anything. I talked to him this morning, anything we want. So Jim is a must, because obviously he worked with Gary for many years. He played in the dungeons for many years and worked on the dungeons for a while, I think, after Gary's passing. So Jim Ward's on board. We have talked to Jeffrey Talanian. We are going to use Jeff as much as he allows us to use him. We will abuse Jeff, but Jeff's got his own company. He's got Hyperborea and all of that he's got to keep his eyes on that. So he can't stop. We would love it if Jeff could stop and jump back in where he was. That was obviously the first choice, but he's got his own barnyard he's got to take care of. But we will abuse Jeff as much as he allows us to abuse us, until he sends me a sharply worded text to stop abusing him. So. And then we're going to have our own Jeremy Farkas and Jason Vey to help out Mike and Luke with particulars that they can't cover or whatever, and bringing this whole very large project together. That's it. That's the crew so far. Of course, Bill Edmonds on cartography, Peter Bradley, and some other artists that we're bringing on. The art is a thing we're going to readdress, because it's a lot of art for different projects. I mean, the Gygax in Fantasy World Series is very different than Castle Zagging. Yep. So we all got to kind of sit down and make sure we get the right vision. And I'm going through emails that Gary and I shared and trying to remember what he wanted to do. I remember he and I had a few discussions, arguments about certain things. So I want to make sure we land whatever he wanted as close as humanly possible to where he landed. Yeah. The odd thing about the GFW, it was in the midst of a huge overhaul when he crossed the bar. I mean, if you look at the 7th book, Cosmos Builder, it's very different than the first 6. And we're in the process of redoing book 1 in that style that book 7 is. So we got to get all that lined up.
Yeah, I think the GFW is going to be it should be the easiest. I think it's just getting it all lined up, like same format, same delivery, same consistent artwork and covers and stuff like that.
And it really needs volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. We never really did that because the series came out over such a long period of time. Yeah. But also Gary was working on multiple ones of it, and he really didn't conceive of it as you needed this, that, or the other. But it's a series. It kind of needs to go together so people know.
Yeah, so kind of give it a rationale and sort of, I mean, I hate to say it, a template or format or something, so that it kind of ties together as reference materials, within reason.
Yeah. People need to know that at the outset.
And it would be 9 volumes now or 8?
It might be 10.
10. Yep. It's going to be 10 volumes.
10 volumes.
A perfect number. Yes, no, that's a perfect gathering. I didn't think it would stretch out to 10. I wasn't aware until you told me as well that those 2 other books he had written.
Yeah, when I didn't know that he had finished them, but they're finished, sitting on. Now I will say this: we've gotten a hold of everyone involved with the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series except one of the writers, and I haven't yet been able to get a hold of him. We still have to get a hold of a lot of the people involved with the Castle Zagging project, the neighborhoods and whatnot. But that 10th number is kind of incumbent on us finding Zane McCarty. I believe that's his name. That's the fellow who wrote Essential Places. And I never had any connection with Zane, so I'm going to have to figure out where he is. And we don't want to publish something that the legal is very confusing.
Yeah, all of you guys out there, if you know Zane McCarty, find it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm telling you this. My dad's gone. There's probably agreements or things of that nature that we're not fully aware of. And so, if you worked on this stuff, let us know. If you got some information and can back up the stuff, that'd be great. It's been 15 years, and it's just, imagine trying to pick anything up after 15 years. There's
Yeah.
going to be a few gaps. We need to tighten a few things up. So help us out if that applies to you.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. A lot of people don't know that Troller Games was Gary's publisher, but Gary had his own company called TLG, and they arranged their own writers and stuff like that. So that stuff came to us. You know, we didn't have much to do with that. So yeah, if you know Zane or anyone that's been involved in this project, shoot me or Chuck or Grace an email, text, DM, whatever, and we will sort through it and get a hold of you.
I'm going to make a couple announcements real fast for everybody. First of all, thank you for coming. I'm very excited about the announcement. Very excited. We do have a giveaway going. So for you folks that are over on YouTube or Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, excuse me, you'll have to join us over on Twitch if you want to join in the giveaway. Unfortunately, that's the limitations of this so far right now. All you have to do is just go over and hop on our Twitch channel here, which is basically Twitch TV Troller Games. I'll drop it in the chat here for you guys to see wherever restream is. I gotta find this. This multi-streaming is not the easiest thing to do. So there's the link right there. If you're curious about want some more information besides what we're going to talk about today, you can go here to our page on our website. That's the Gygax page. It's got a lot of information, some pictures, and kind of sort of an idea of what we're going to be doing. Outside of all of that, the giveaway. The giveaway is going to be for 4 store coupons for $15 off any purchase. And then one person will get a signed copy by Stephen Chenault of the classic reprint of Gettysburg mailed to their house, along with the PDF. That being said, we do have a common question popping up, and that is, you're going to love this one. Basically, when will it be here?
So
I knew that was coming.
Now, how's this going to work? Is there going to be crowdfunding going on? What's it look like? You know, all this.
Yeah, but probably. Yeah, probably. Look, you and I we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the idea now is we got the Gygax and Fantasy World Kickstarter set up to go, and it launches. I can't remember now, March 1st or sometime right around there. And those books are done. That's the nice thing. We're going to send them into editing and clean them up, kind of make sure all the formatting's done correctly, covers, art, whatnot. So that'll be crowdfunded on Kickstarter. And those will move immediately. I mean, the nice thing is we don't have to wait a year to write them or any of this. They're done. So that's fantastic. Now, the Castles Act, Hall of Many Pains, Hermit, all of those things fall into that same kind of category. It's really an art and cartography. For the Castles Agging stuff, the news is actually very good. And we can all thank Peter Bradley for this. And Jeff Tlaney, I'm sure, too, because he did most of the hard work in the old days. But a lot of this stuff was done from levels, the Mouths of Madness, the Mansion, and levels 1, 2, 3, and I think 4A were finished. Mapping, which is really good news for all of us. We're already deep into this thing. And all of levels 1, Mouths of Madness is done. Levels 1 is done. And I want to say chunks of level 2 are written. So we're pretty deep into it before we even start.
And if you'd seen those maps, you'd know why that's a big deal. These are not easy. These are old school, very complex, because that was part of the game, was puzzle solving, mapping.
Yeah.
There was a lot of trickery. You know, that was a lot of the focus, because there was a little bit less in the role play, right? But there was more in puzzle solving, the sense of the mapping, figuring out where you were, why did a map go over a space that you thought you'd already been on, perhaps, or things like that. Getting teleported slides, one-way doors, sloping passages, etc., which is fairly complex to depict on a map well and in a way that's understandable to the person picking it up and reading it who didn't design it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's it'll be a challenge, and this actually will a lot of where Luke will jump in, and his having played in a lot of this stuff will help Peter out as we go forward, kind of matching this stuff up to what Gary intended to do, because that'll be the tricky part is after what he's worked on, starting level 4B or 5 or wherever that lands. We're going to rely on Luke and Ernie and Jim Ward and anyone else from that time period to jump on and help do. So the idea is, I've talked to Mike Stewart. He's already on board. I'll get him a contract today, and he'll begin work immediately. and I've asked him for one level every 6 weeks. That's the hope. We don't want to sit on this. We know what Gary's vision was. You know, a lot of people that were involved in it are still involved now, so we've got that down. We just got to make sure we adhere to it, and then write this stuff up in a style that would make Gary happy, but that also appeals to the more modern gamers who play a little bit differently. The puzzle solving was huge back in the day. Today it's still there, but a little different. So yeah, I'm hoping that you start seeing content by second quarter of this year. That's the hope.
Yeah, and I think you know, if you try to recreate something from 1974 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is, and put it in today, that doesn't work in any media that you do that. You know, if you took whatever Pong and tried to sell Pong to people, they probably wouldn't think that's right. There's been some evolution, there's been some change, there's been some development, but we want to do it in the spirit of, and be able to you know, capture where we think he was there and what would be some logical progressions that would be incorporated. I think that's fair to say.
And I think that, I know Davis, because Davis talked to Gary a lot more. Davis's relationship with Gary was less business than mine was, but from working with Gary for so many years, he would want the game at Zagig to evolve with the modern. He would want the modern gamers playing. He wouldn't want to keep doing it the same way. He was all over. I remember him showing me that computer game. He wrote a computer game in like 1978 or something. He was all over the future. He wasn't all over holding on to what, you know, we were doing back in the stone age of gaming or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, failed to realize how actually forward-thinking Gary was in his game, both the design and stuff like that. Where he thought the game was going to go, and how it should go there, and you know, other elements that have since shown up in the game. But interestingly, so this was one of my last conversations with Gary regarding Zagig itself. Was there's 17 levels, which is a whole lot of levels for a dungeon. It's a lot.
It is.
And it's a lot of rooms per level. I've seen those maps that he drew. Okay. And I remember now, because you sent me these sets of maps, I had to transfer those maps because no one was allowed to ever look at the originals except you and me. And I had to transfer those maps onto a different set of sheet of paper to deliver to other people to flesh out or map.
I've got your copies of them. It's kind of funny. I found those the other day.
Yeah, that was the agreement. I remember that was the agreement. No one was allowed to look at those maps except you and me. That was it. So they've never been made public, to my knowledge. They've never been made public, the original maps. But when we were talking about those levels, what he wanted to add, which I don't know how much we have in there, is the interconnectedness between levels, and just connecting like level 1 to level 8, level 8 to level 3, level 3 to level 11, and just having tons of interconnections. And I literally just got a headache sitting there listening to him, like make this little schematic of all this kind of stuff. I'm like, how are you going to do that? How do you actually physically do that type of stuff? But that
sounds like a job for Peter Bradley and Luke. I do remember he talked about ramps, staircases, you know, whatever, shafts, everything, because he just wanted it all woven together.
Yeah, no, that's to Luke's reference there about the one-way doors, the sliding passages, and all those kind of things that you find in these old school dungeons that you don't find as much anymore. They were going to be replete, and I think that we need to hold on to that. I think that aspect of it needs to be held.
Yeah, definitely.
The mapping needs to be part of the Zagig experience, I do believe.
What we need to do once it starts rolling out is we need to get some people to build a Minecraft.
Oh my God, that'd be great.
That would be fantastic. Every level, all the way down. That's the way to do it.
That'd be insane.
Dude, that would be awesome.
I mean, fucking cool. Oh, I said it. I cussed again. Sorry, Peter. Damn it.
Chuck, you're itching your fingers. What? Is there a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there probably is. Let me go back. Yeah, so there is some questions. They want to know about VTT maps.
we will get VTT maps. Yes, definitely.
2040. No. It's more work. Why are these customers always trying to make us work harder? What is the deal on that?
Yeah, what's up with that? What's going on with that?
They always want more. I tell you.
Always
They do.
more. It's always changing.
That's right. We're gonna put hand drawn. We're gonna the blue geomorph maps, and if those aren't good enough for you, then
That's
listen,
right.
Sonny Jim. Get out your protractor.
That's all you need. That's all you need. I do remember the days that back in the 70s when Davis wouldn't give me a map at all. He would say the corridor goes 20 feet, then 10 feet to the left and 20 feet to the right. And I'm sitting there on my graph paper.
That's how it was done. He
Yeah.
never showed you the map. But so I understand there's different sensibilities. There's an evolution. I get it. But for when I was playing with my dad, maybe if there was a key encounter, he would set something up on a table with some minis. Maybe. Very, very rare. Typically it was he would call out the directions. All right, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, passage turns east or continues north. 10 feet, 20 feet, passage ends in a door to the north. What and you just make those selections what you're going to do. I mean, it was like that. And if you made a mistake, well, that's you can pace it back, and I'll recall the directions to you, and you have to figure it out.
My maps were a disaster. I never knew. I never did it right.
3 sheets and all in the corners, and well, awful. But also fun, because then you had to piece them together and that sort of. So, like I said, it was part of the game at that point in time. But we understand things change, and that's okay. There'll be some extras in there.
I gotta say, it's pretty cool watching some of these VTT programs where they got the torch and it lights up what you can see, and there's that's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that
pretty
too.
cool.
It is. Hey, you know what? I have to jump off because I've got an appointment that I've got to get to. But I'm just really I'm so excited. It's almost a bit surreal, if I'm being honest, after all this time. But I'm very, very happy and very excited, and I'm glad to be doing this with the trolls, and I'm just super happy. So thank you for supporting Troll Lords and my dad's work, and I'll do the best I can to deliver something awesome.
We have no doubt you will, and thanks for everything you've done, Luke, and thanks for jumping on stream today. I know I gave you no time to prepare for this.
A little short notice, but it's all right.
A little short notice.
All right, guys, take care. We'll talk to you.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.
So Peter's telling me that he may still have Zane's email. He's going to see if he can't find it because they were all working together on stuff. That I was not party to. So hopefully that 10th volume of the Gygaxian Fantasy World Series will be a part of this mix.
Yeah, that would be nice. And with regards to Zagig, I just want to reiterate Ken's point that we didn't have access to those contracts and negotiations or anything like that. We don't know all of them. We just dealt with Tri-G Gary, basically. That's it. So that's going to be a lot of work to figure out everyone who worked on Zagig and where those works land. And I wonder how many people actually worked on it at that point.
It was a lot. So he was most passionate about the Yigsburg stuff.
Yeah.
Castle Zagig he was interested in, but Yigsburg is where his heart really was. So those neighborhoods, there was 24 neighborhoods, and I know he hired like 10 different people to work on them.
That's what I thought. There were like a lot of people.
Yeah. So, but I didn't know who those people were. I suspect if I would really, once I get into all these files, they were probably sent to me at some point, and I just filed them. And Peter and I'm sure Peter and I had we're going to do this one and then this, an order of battle on those things. But that was a couple of sleeps ago, so I can't remember what that was. And in those days, a lot of our notes was on. Remember that yellow pad I used to carry everywhere. So my notes were on and there's yellow pads everywhere and nowhere, and God knows where those things are.
Yeah, and I didn't keep any of that information. I just kept some of the Gary's notes and what you sent me, what I was had to work on specifically at the time. So I don't know. All I know is Jeff was in charge. That was it.
He came on early as one of the developers of the neighborhoods, and he and Gary synced like magic, and they started working together, and Jeff became the project leader of all of that. Yeah. So he was kind of managing it for Gary. Which I mean, he wrote and will be republishing. He wrote The Mansion, The Mouth of Madness, and Level 1, and all of that's ready to. I mean, it will new art and mats and whatnot, but it's ready to go. So
Yeah, and
it'll be Jeff will be all over it. And I saw someone's question about Dan Cross. Davis and I've been talking to Dan Cross for several weeks. He's kind of aware of what's going on. We will bring Dan Cross in as much as Dan Cross's time permits. He's got a lot of personal stuff that he has, a personal journey that he's embarked upon that is his priority. But much like Jeff, we will abuse the living crap out of Dan as much as Dan allows us to. Yes, because he wrote GFW book number 5, and he co-wrote World Builder with Gary. That's GFW book number 2. And we were in the process of redoing the first World Builder and doing a World Builder 2 that Dan Cross was going to write with Gary. So he worked with Gary a lot.
Yes.
So we're just.
Yeah, Dan came to mind first thing when we were going over this.
Yeah.
But
so Dan,
Dan's really busy too. I mean, it's been 15 years. People have lives still. So
Very true.
and no one can just throw it all away for or put their life on hold again. So
Couple things real fast. I want to thank Wolf Alone for the subs, all those subs you just gave out. We really appreciate that, Wolf. That was very cool of you. I see you got your Dr. Pepper. I meant to tell you earlier that Lando, he was fast on the trigger this morning.
Thank you, Lando. Thank you.
We do have a question from Reflexus or Rex Fellis Catlord. He asks, do you mind to please give a brief description of what Kings of England, Kings of France board game is?
dude, this is going to be awesome. Go ahead.
Yes, go for it. We're waiting.
Kings of England, Kings of France. If I remember correctly, and it's been many, many years since I looked at it, it is the 100 Years' War time frame. It might be somewhat after that, but it's a historical war game in which you get to play either the King of England, King of France. There's the County of Toulouse. There's Aquitaine. There's Burgundy. There's like different countries, so it's not just those two. And it's a war game built around a board game built around the conquest of Europe. And we were so far along on that project. In January, we had one final meeting. Gary put in he had gone to Peter Bradley, had laid out all of the game cards that go with it. We had those coins that go with it. We had all that laid out. We were arguing over the color of the board, and he wanted very specific colors for the countries on the board. And I wanted less bright colors on the board. We were arguing about that. But so it's a board game that's, I believe, Peter, I know you're out there. Is it the 100 Years' War? I'm pretty sure it's the 100 Years' War. I get that a little bit mixed up because I know that Gary loved the Renaissance period. So it may be slightly later in England and France's wars of Northern Europe. But it was going to promise to be a great war game when it got pulled.
All right, so wait. So I've never actually seen the layout for Kings of War, or I did at one
long time ago.
Yeah, so I can't really remember it. And I'm probably as excited about this as Gary was because I love wargaming, right? I just love wargaming. But it's not chit based, right?
No,
it was cards, coins.
And he had some kind of tokens or something, if I remember right.
So I found this the other day.
Something.
So I'm trying to unearth all kinds of stuff. Right?
He's back here with his crowbar and his shovel.
Yeah, it's so much. Well, so this is the map.
Yes.
Oh wow, dude! Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, you know what? That's the Angevin Empire. That's King Henry II's empire is what that is.
It looks like an early Games of Thrones map, to be honest with you. Westeros.
Yes, it was. So I don't know. It's going to be a very, very, very cool board game. And he was very, very, very passionate about that. He wanted a board game out, and I think at this juncture, Gary was in 2006, 7, and 8. He could see the success of the GFW series. He could see the movement forward on the Castle Gygax stuff was doing really, really well. The response was well, and I think he wanted to be board games, card games. I think he wanted to have a footprint everywhere because he did more than just role playing games, and that was one of his things is to let the community and let everybody know and let him and to bring his own games out.
And he loved board games.
Yeah.
You know,
it's one of my favorite memories of eating after our conventions, before the conventions and afters. Davis and I and whoever trolls were with us would gather on the porch with Gary, sit around and have some beers and eat and But Davis and Gary would usually within 30 minutes be playing some kind of weird board game that Gary had on his porch. I remember that Egyptian game, something from ancient Egypt you guys were playing. There was Settlers of Catan. There was whatever game was near came out and you started playing.
And dang, he was a good gamer, man. Oh my God.
Got a question about that.
Okay, so
somebody asked.
So Peter just sent me the ad copy. Hold on. Peter just sent me the ad copy for Kings of England, Kings of France. It's actually the Angevin period. It's not the 100 Years' War.
Oh,
it's
so
not?
It's the 11th.
Interesting.
No, it's the 12th century. So you've got Henry II, you've got
Right.
Philip Augustus of France, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and so forth and so on. That's
cool.
even more interesting.
Yeah, that's cool because 100 Years War. No offense, but that's been done. How big is the map? You think? I mean, how big will the map be? You think? You know.
We'll do a big size map to it because
Okay.
I can't remember what parts go on it. I know that was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
I found the coins, I found the cards, so I got to kind of figure out. And this is out of TLG's wheelhouse. We were doing board games back then. We had done Planet Busters. We were working on this one, and there was another small.
Yeah, that's right. Planet
so we had board game connections in those days.
Right.
But as soon as we lost this license, we just kind of jettisoned all board games and focused on Castles and Crusades. So, we're going to have to kind of retool. Luckily, our good friend Aldo Giazzi knows more about board games, has forgotten more about board games than most people know. So, and he is retired now. I think he's on a cruise ship in Madagascar at the moment. I don't know where he
Oh, tough times.
But,
rough. Yeah.
Yeah, tough times for Aldo. So I will hound Aldo to the end of time and back again.
Peter said he found a map, a big map that says Black Death on it. He says, "Is that maybe that's it?"
There you go.
I would like to have a mock-up by Gary Kahn. That would be sort of cool. I don't
That
know
would
if
be
it
cool.
would be possible, but
Peter now is because Peter has clearly forgotten about it. He's digging into his notes, and Peter had all the notes for I remember I took the notes on the cards what Gary wanted changed, and I sent those to Peter. But we were working on so many projects at the time.
yeah.
Got a couple more questions here. This is from Greyhawk Gargnard. Are Gary's Gord novels coming out at some point down the line?
So we hope. I mean, at this point, everything that we listed on the website is what we've got permission.
Let me
to
put
do.
that link back up for everybody too.
Yeah, and I don't think if we can move on this stuff and show the estate and the court that look, this is exceedingly viable, I think they will just open up the books to us. I really do. So at this point, the next thing, the Gygax in Fantasy World Series, will be important to see how that lands, and as we dive into this next one to see how that stuff lands. And then we'll petition the court for Gord. There's a few other properties that we were working on because Gary we had done the first Gord novel as a hardcover, and I'm not certain that the Gord books had ever come out as hardcovers. So we were going to do the entire series. I want to say it's 6, and there was a 7th being written.
We did it as hardcover, right?
We did it as hardcover, and we were working on volumes 2 and 3 when he crossed the bar, and then of course we lost the license and couldn't finish them. So the hope is that we can get Gore down as well. Those are really cool, just fun fantasy adventures, very D&D-esque without being D&D-esque, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, they're cool. They're cool.
Let's see. Fellas Catlord asked again another question. Any plans to republish any of the Legendary Adventures books? LA was not very popular, but it was a very nifty rule set with minimalist monster stat blocks and focus on adventure, similar to AD&D First Edition. Also, the world book for Legendary Adventures is prohibitively expensive on eBay, so I would love to see you guys republish any of it, all of it.
So there was a ton of Legendary Adventure stuff, an absolute monstrous ton. While Gary was working on Zagig and GFW, he and Peter Bradley were working on the layout for the 3 core books for Legendary Adventures. The player's book, the CK's guide, it's not CK, with GM's guide for the Legendary Adventures. And then there was the monstrous something, I can't remember what the monster book was called. And then he had Aster Rogues. He had like 6 other source books, because what he really envisioned LA to be like is like CNC is becoming, with covering different genres, and GURPS has been for many, many years, where you got your core and then you play all of this stuff, these different genres. And he had a lot of stuff in the works. And we had the players, we're going to do them all 3 simultaneously. The player's book was finished. Peter can correct me if I'm wrong. And the CKG was like 90% laid out. It needed some art. and the monster book we still needed a lot of work to do on the monster book. But so we were deep down that rabbit hole. This is one of those things that Davis remembers when we, in January of 2008, when we last met Gary physically, and he gave us this just huge list of things that he wanted to work on. I remember getting in the truck with Davis when we were headed over to Gary's house for our Sunday afternoon meal. That man, he is busier now than he was in the 80s. There's the amount of work he has given us this weekend is 5 years worth of work to roll out. So his creative juices were flowing. He was super excited about what was happening. So for the LA stuff, I would absolutely love to put that back out. So he was, if nothing else, in a limited edition series so people can see the game that he was working on. It's a very good game. And it was another one of his passions. He had moved beyond where Dungeons and Dragons was at the time and was diving into LA. So ironically enough, he wouldn't let us do an LA version of Castle Zaggig. He said that Castle Zaggig was designed with AD&D and CNC in mind. It wasn't designed with CNC, obviously, but because we're kind of, related to that, then it worked. But for LA, he wasn't interested in seeing an LA version of Castle Zaggig.
No, if you want to see a treasure trove, speaking of LA, I speak really highly of it. If you want to see a treasure trove of Gary's imagination, you're going to find it in LA. He was really, really putting some energy into that. And I occasionally pick up something. I have a few of the LA things here. I'll occasionally pick up whenever I want to reconnect with Gygaxian prose style and stuff like that. I just pick that up or one of the old modules and read it. And my goodness, you could pillage LA for material for years and years and years. I came across some of those notes the other day, Kent.
What's that?
About the LA stuff, and I was like, oh my God, because I'm rewriting the Hydrosphinx or the Androsphinx.
Yep.
And then I happened upon some of Gary's Sphinx notes, and I was like, he has like 12 different types of Sphinxes listed right here. I'm like,
sounds about right.
What do you do with that?
He really liked unusual animals too. I remember that. He liked animals that were just, a little bit beyond what we're used to.
Yeah. No, so there's a lot. I don't know where LA sits though. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, we don't have the rights to it yet, nor Gord. So I'm hoping that by summertime, when we've shown even more strength with all of this stuff, that we can make another petition to the court and get this stuff rolling. I think it needs to be out. I honestly think the bulk of Gary's material needs to be out for people to at least enjoy, diving into. So we've got a question here. Will the Chateau module be released again? It will not. That material belongs to Rob Kuntz. And so that's something Rob will have to visit. But no, that will not be released with this bundle of joy we got coming out. Thank you, Hero Zone, for the congratulations. Very much appreciate it.
This is very exciting.
Oh my goodness.
This place.
So now that we finally announced it, I'm so exhausted from waiting up.
I know.
The planning. Because I know that you've been busy for like 7 days nonstop now. And
well, you kept texting me at night. Let's announce it tonight.
I know.
Davis has been incredibly excited. He's very excited. We won't.
Yeah, now that it's there,
I hope so too,
I'm
buddy.
so exhausted because of course, my morning starts about 1 a.m. So it's already 12 hours into my day already. But
Martin, you may have just joined the chat. We just got through discussing the LA stuff. Right now, that is not on the docket for us, but we would absolutely publish anything we could and we're allowed to of Gary's stuff. Absolutely. But it's one hill at a time, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
We will be busy this year. TLG will be very busy. And if we have brothers, this is like, there's more coming.
So, got another question here. This is from KCC. I wonder if you can guess who that is.
Casey, how's it going, man?
He says, you guys up for revisiting essential places? I'm up for revisiting Haunted Highlands, fool. Anyway.
Yes. And the funny thing about Casey, I talked about that what was it, Casey, 6 months ago or something?
I don't know.
And Jeremy actually went in Jeremy's already done this. Jeremy has gone in and broken up the whatever we had, the giant book of the Haunted Highlands. He's broken it up into a CK guide and the adventures separate. So we actually can move on the Haunted Highlands pretty quickly. And I'm glad Casey came into the stream. We're not going to discuss it here, but we need to discuss. I had an idea I want to run by the troll crew and see what you guys think. And Casey's might.
Oh, that's a wrong. It's a wrong Casey. I feel foolish now. It's Fiffergrun.
Oh, is it not? Is it not Casey?
Oh, it's not Casey.
Oh no, I thought it was. I should have looked at the icon closer. It's YouTube.
Oh, Casey. Well, speaking of Haunted Highlands, Casey, Mr. Good, you've now got
to be Casey. Hadn't talked to you in a while. Casey wrote Fingers in the Second Hand for Castles and Crusades back in the day. He did a lot of articles for the Crusader magazine. He edited the second printing of the Monsters and Treasures and did a whole lot of other work for and with the Trolls. So we have much love for Pfeiffergrund.
I got a couple more questions here. The first one is, let's see. When Gary wrote stuff, did he write it because he thought it would be cool or if he thought it would sell? This is from 1995.
So my take on that, one of the cool things about working with Gary for me, and I don't want to put words in Davis's mouth or anything, but he pretty much left the publishing and the marketing and the selling to Trollworld Games. He was done with that, I think. He would give advice, and we asked him all the time, but he wanted to just create games. So I think what he was doing was creating things that he wanted to do. And sending them our way. And if we were interested, great. If not, he would shop it around. Yeah, obviously, I don't think we turned anything of Gary's down. It was just good stuff all the way around. But I think at that juncture, he was just trying to create what he wanted to create and hopes that we would pick it up. And at the end of the day, that's our job, right? Is to take it and sell it. So I don't think he was looking at, this is going to sell really well. Go with this.
Right. Someone else asked, is CNC purely aired game, or are there any other further official settings planned? Let's see. Oh, and then someone commented back, CNC works with anything. He says we can say that, but so does AD&D. He wants to know specifically if CNC is purely an aired game or can it run in other settings. I suppose. And if there's any other settings coming out, like and that kind of thing.
Oh, do we have more settings coming out? Absolutely. Davis is working on the Inzaya setting, which is a darker, more, I don't know how to describe Inzaya. It's just a darker setting.
Brutal is what I would describe it.
It's a dark, brutal setting. So there's definitely that. Haunted Highlands is on the docket all the time. So those are the big ones that they are working on. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So definitely more setting material. And I love setting material because I can read Davis's and Zaya stuff and go, this is cool, and jamming it to my aired setting. So I love just all kinds of.
Right. Yeah, since we also co-write. I don't know how much you write for Inzaya, but it'll show up every once.
It shows up. Oh yeah.
You can tell too because y'all have different.
Especially when I finish something.
I was reading.
When you don't finish it, like the Undying War.
No. But I'll send because it'll say, all right, you need a module for this, blah blah blah, and I'll write like good portions of it, and then I would put in red text. It would be like, can't finish this, can't finish this, can't finish this.
The funny thing though, Dave, is if you're reading like the Codex of Air in the one section where it describes terrain, I remember that we were running late, so I just started giving you, Davis, can you write this terrain for me? Can you write this, what these hills are, what this for? So mine are kind of like standard fantasy, but then you can tell when Davis wrote it because it's all dark and twisted and death and all kinds of shit.
And written in Old English, you have to look up the dictionary, have to look up the words. It's it's not that bad. Well,
from Harry Potter to Conan, I suppose, or however you want to do it.
So we have another question. This is from MJ Cook. You're gonna love this one. This is a wing dinger here. Will this be pushing anything already on the 2024 schedule to a later date? And will we be having a massive hiring spree of thousands of people to come help?
But we have brought on 2 new people in the last few months. Grace, of course, and Jeremy to help with a lot of the work. We got some other stuff in the works on that, but the plan is like with a lot of the stuff that's already done. we're going to republish it. The neighborhoods, hopefully we can get with all the people who worked on those things and just do them as they were. And Gary had his eyes on that. So that's the hope there. And then Mike Stewart and Luke will get jumping on writing the actual levels of the book, and with Jeremy and Jason back up. So I'm hoping that it doesn't slow down the rest of what we're doing. We've got, I think at the moment, and I said this wrong earlier, I said second quarter, but Castle Zagging is booked for this third quarter, the first sections of Castle Zagging third quarter, because we're going to get the art together. And next, second quarter will be the Player's Handbook, Monsters and Treasures, and CKG Guide, redone without OGL material in it. So this should not delay that at all. And end of the year is Plains, the Plains book, the Codex of the Plains. So we didn't know that this would happen, but we were anticipating that it would. So when we laid the schedule out late last year, we loosened it up. We just made it very elastic so that if this stuff arrived, we could shift things around relatively quickly. The only thing we couldn't shift is the core books, and we've already done a huge amount of work on the core books, so that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and Ken, just to reiterate that, Ken and I had a very long discussion about this. Maybe it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I was fairly insistent. I know that. So I'm not lead on any of these projects. Okay. I specifically turned down lead on any project, and I'm co-writer maybe on Zagig.
Yeah, you're one of the backup.
Yeah, one of the backup writers for Zagig, which would be super, super fun and honorable. But I told Ken, I was like, no, we've hired these 2 new people. We need to focus on getting all the Castles and Crusades stuff done that we've got in the hopper and planned for this year, to include several of my vanity projects, which I need out and done so we can move forward.
Right.
So for us, actually, I think for me, I've felt it in the past 2 weeks, my scheduling is way better.
But we're already filling it up with monsters, so it's
no, that's fine. That's in the scheduling though.
Yeah,
that's part of the scheduling, that I'm not stressing every morning and going, I got to finish 50 monsters. I've got it scheduled down, and I can fit it in there without giving me a stress headache and going back to bed.
I just want to thank Eat to Surf. They rated in while you guys were talking. I didn't want to interrupt this big deluge of words, but thanks, Dave. We appreciate you a whole bunch. Come on over, everybody. We're doing a raffle giveaway. This Exclamation Point raffle, and give us a follow. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you will have to come over to our neck of the woods, unfortunately, to enter the raffle, but you are more than welcome to come over here and join us. If you want to, we are over here doing it with on Twitch. Go ahead and continue what you were saying, Davis. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, it's fine. I don't know what I was saying.
Fair.
I did send, Kent, you'll be happy to know I sent Grace the first cognitive peak, and I'm going to start doing them. I'm going to start doing them. She did. She hasn't responded to whether or not she likes it or not. So I don't know if it'll go up, but I'll start doing them anyway. And Sophie is redesigning the office so that
so that you can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I've got a couple more questions that come through. The first one's going to be from Net Navi. With Undying War, will there be A13 through A17, the Dungeons of Austria, coming up sometime later in print?
Yes, that's actually one of the things that Davis and I were talking about last week, and Chuck, everybody. But I've laid out a plan on what to do with the abstract stuff to solve the major issue that I was having with it. Davis is going to jump on board and help me with that. But basically, we're going to flesh out all the levels simultaneously, as opposed to doing one after another. Right. And this way, we can actually build that interactivity that Davis was talking about, that Gary wanted Zagging to have. We definitely want an abstract as well, so you can go from level 3 to 14 or whatever. So I've got a plan on how to do that, and it's basically write all the levels simultaneously, but just like a page for each one. So we can develop that as we go, and that should solve a lot of those issues. Now, 13 through 17 are already finished. Those are kind of capped, so it's really above level 6 where it gets more complicated, and that's where Davis and I'll dive into that. Jason Bay is going to jump on board and help us as well, because he does dungeons really, really well. We've got a plan, and I really hope that by first week of February that we are deep into it.
I've already started fleshing out areas, and sending them to Kent, have a file. So the abstract is going to be fun to write. That is going to be super fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Jeremy, you too, buddy. You're in there too, buddy.
Yeah, you can't escape. MJ Cook 78 asks, and we answered this last week on the AMA, but this is going to become a more popular question as the year goes through. The CNC starter kit set still on for 2024? Maybe.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's being worked on, but we just,
Jeremy's further along than he thought on that thing. I think that first portion we need to review to make sure that it's going to be how we want it to look. And then basically mail for art and writing the second half, and that'll be.
Yeah, I've got some ideas I need to run by the crew before we.
Yeah, we need to probably meet about that again. But yeah, we're working on it, and we'd like to. My goal is to have it out by December 1st for Christmas, but we had that goal last year as well, so we'll see. We want it though very badly, but man, it's just all this work. It's crazy. Spam Viking asks, didn't hear, but will this include a reprint of the Lost City of Gaxmore?
So yes, Luke and I talked about that some. The Gaxmore was updated tremendously for 5th edition, so we've got a ton of content that we can port over into a CNC version. That is definitely on the docket. We've got to kind of figure out how that fits into both Luke's publishing schedule, because he's got his own company with Gaxworks and TLGs, and of course the Castle Zagic stuff. But absolutely, I mean, Gaxmore is badass, and the stuff that we have for it now. The map by Lisa, the new art, it's just fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I can't say enough about it, to be honest with you. It's a lot. Well, listen, we've been at this an hour, and we've got some giveaways to do. I think we give giveaways, and we're going to have to scoot on here and get back to work. I've got a deadline I got to meet, and I don't want the troller coming after me with one of his minions. So.
That bastard.
Yeah. But we'd love to stay on here all day if we could. Now, Steve will have his AMA again tomorrow night. So you can come by and harangue and give us more questions if you want to. Real quick, this is our streaming schedule over on Twitch, though we are streaming to other platforms now. So if you don't want to join us on Twitch, you can join us on YouTube or Facebook. But that's the schedule, just so you know where to look, right? These two in there. I'm going to switch it over here and get this done. And again, if anybody who's not joined it, if you want to join the raffle giveaway and you're not on Twitch, you just simply have to come over here to this link right here, and that's not the way to do it, Chuck. There we go. And join us there real quick and just join. Follow us, !raffle. !raffle gets you in. Not falafel, Jeremy. No, you're not helping. Raffle. All right, so let me get switched over to that crazy guy. And you don't need to be doing it all there, Bean, collector of gift codes. Anyway. We got some people in this community who they have a bag of codes and walk around with them. They were very upset when they found they couldn't use them all at one time. I was like, All right, so let's see. Let me get to the giveaway.
Well, with codes and loyalty program and stuff like that, I mean, after a while, boom.
that is true. That's true. We were trying to make it to where we just work for you guys for free. Is what we want.
There you go.
All right, so. We're going to give away the 4 $15 codes right now. Okay, for you guys. Let me go ahead and close the entries out real fast. Booyah! Closed. First 4 will be pulled. Let's go get those out of the way. First up is going to be MJ-ish or MJ Sherm, 22344. If you're here, Mr. Sherm, please go to our Discord. There's the link, and you contact Obsidian Risk. He'll be in the Discord, and he will give you a code. If you have any issues about that, just ask someone in the Discord, and they will get him for you. All right. Our next winner is going to be Eric Oakway. And Eric, you've won. Congrats. So again, if you happen to be in hop into our Discord, there's the link. Same old thing. Just hit up Obsidian Risk. Our next winner is going to be Savage Splendor. He knows how to do this. He's won before. Savage, congratulations on you. And our last $15 for the store is going to be Blood. No, it's not going to be Blood Wild. It's Gabriel 420. Oh, they've been in chat for a while today. Congrats on that. So just hop on to the Discord and hit them up. Congratulations to all the winners. We really appreciate you. Now for the final, this is for the signed copy of the classic reprint of Yigsburg, which will be going away as we work on the Gygax and Fantasy World Building Series. It will go eventually, right, Steve? Isn't that right? So let's get it pulled out here. And that's going to be Eat to Surf. Unbelievable. He just said if he won, he might give it away to somebody else. Oh, my goodness. If you could, Dave, just PM me on Discord, or you can get a hold of Obscene Risk and just give us your shipping information, and we'll get back with you. Actually, don't do that, Dave. Just do me a favor. This would be a lot easier. Just email me. I'm on the wrong computer. Hold on, man. Let me do this instead. Sorry, I had to switch over to the key. Dave, just email me here, and then I'll make sure you get everything you deserve, Dave. All right, there's my email. All right. That's all I got. Just want to thank everybody for coming out today and hanging out with us. This is a very momentous occasion. We cannot get over just how crazy it is right now. It's wild, everything that's going on. So, you know, I don't know what to say. I'm very excited. All right, with that, we're going to cut out and go back to work. We want to let everybody go back to their work day. We really thank you guys so much. Please come by and see us tonight for Grace. She'll be doing live readings of the World of Aird. Actually, she's working on the Codex of Aird right now, going through the actual settings. So that's some pretty cool stuff. And she'll be on later tonight at, I think, 8 p.m. Central, I believe, when she goes live. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 7:38, somewhere around there. But yeah, 7 p.m. Central. She's watching. There it is. I can't remember. And Davis has some strange dice. That's what he's got to show off there to everyone. He's very excited about it. In fact, we're going to do a stream of 5 hours where he just rolls the dice, never anything. So it's going to happen.
In the
There
middle.
you go.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll talk.